Space Coconut.
Okay, today we're going to talk about all three of Deathslinger's perks in a quick and simplified perk study format. Let me know what you think. Before we get into the meat of the video, I want to encourage you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. YouTube tattled on you and said that most of you weren't actually subbed to the channel, and it would really tickle the algorithm if you did. Now, with all the begging out of the way, let's study some perks. The first of three relatively disappointing niche perks is Dead Man's Switch. It says, after hooking the obsession, Dead Man's Switch activates for 45 seconds. While activated, any survivor that stops repairing a generator before it's fully repaired causes the entity to block the generator until the effect ends. All affected gens are highlighted by a white aura. This basically makes it thrilling tremors for hooking survivors with more hoops. The biggest issue with this perk is that it's up to the survivors to trigger the perk. The killer activates it by hooking the obsession, but nothing actually happens unless a survivor leaves a gen within that time limit. I've talked before about how perks that require survivor involvement are the worst perks. Pop Goes the Weasel as an example. The killer hooks a survivor and then kicks a gen. A survivor doesn't activate the perk or they don't trigger it. The killer does each part. They activate and trigger the perk. It's very obvious that this perk is meant for killers to chase survivors off of gens, but then that limits the perk to the few killers available that can travel quickly across the map to chase survivors off a gen before it gets finished while Dead Man's Switch is active in the first place. This is the reason why I chose to use Class Photo Freddy in this match. If you're interested, I'll do another match and I'll do a perk build video for that later if you're really interested. If it somehow stopped survivors from working on a gen and blocked them with the current duration, it would be possible to chain block generators by using Nemesis, Furtive Chase, or getting hit by DS, and that would be way too strong. This is the primary reason why killer perks that affect survivors are just bad and are always lackluster. Because if a killer perk that affects survivors is too strong,
I'm supposed to win. Enough! I can't stand the whining. Like a baby needing its diaper changed.
the whining would be unbearable. I'm still waiting for the devs to learn that good killer perks only affect the killer. Okay, so how about a perk to help you track survivors doing generators? Discordance will show you... what? No, not Discordance? Oh, okay. Thrilling Tremors will... not Thrilling Tremors either? Okay, you gotta be talking about No? Rancor. Surveillance? There are 5 other perks that will reveal auras of survivors on or near generators or the generators themselves. Why the devs think we needed another one, we'll never know. Discordance will highlight a generator whenever 2 or more survivors work on it. Thrilling Tremors activating when you pick up a survivor. Surveillance triggering when a regressing generator is touched by a survivor. Or Rancor or Bitter Murmur activating when a gen is complete. They decided to make Gearhead super easy to use. Gearhead is only active for 30 seconds at a time. In order to activate it, you must hit a survivor twice with your M1 attack. Don't worry though, that's not all. During that super long duration of 30 seconds, if the survivor hits a good skill check, it'll reveal the aura of the generator for as long as they're working on the generator. Now, isn't that simple? In all seriousness, this perk is kind of okay with an absurd requirement for, yet again, survivors to trigger the killer perk. As I was thinking about why this perk was bad, I actually thought about why it might be good. A survivor is downed after 2 hits. If you leave them down, you have the whole 30 seconds to see if a generator is revealed. This might make it an effective slugging perk.
3:28 a.m.
Never mind. After playing a few matches, I discovered a new problem. Gearhead is similar to Spirit Fury, where the killer needs to take a few actions to activate the perk. When an event happens, the perk is used. Unlike Spirit Fury, while Gearhead is activated in a chase, it doesn't help you in one because it's a tracking perk. If you have Gearhead loaded with 1 hit, and you find a healthy survivor, you might not get any use out of the perk. If you hit the healthy survivor, Gearhead becomes active for 30 seconds. if you have that one hit loaded. If a generator turns yellow, what are you going to do? Are you going to abandon the chase to stop the gen from being done? Are you going to continue the chase and go back to the gen later? The odd activation requirement makes it almost a hindrance, and being triggered by Survivor RNG makes it awfully useless compared to other perks that do the exact same thing with less hoops to jump through. And that's my main issue with this perk. How control over triggering the perk is up to RNG on the Survivor side. In addition, a Survivor who only hits Greats or misses a skill check altogether won't activate the perk. Only survivors who hit good skill checks will activate the aura, and only during that 30-second window. And there's no telling what you're going to be doing when that happens thanks to the activation prerequisite. I'd really like to hear why Gearhead was nerfed from 45 seconds and including great and good skill checks to activate, let alone just why this perk was designed this way. But it probably has something to do with their internal balance team understanding the nuances of Dead by Daylight gameplay at high ranks far better than we could. Hex Band-Aid 2, or Retribution, as the devs call it, is the second hex perk introduced that punishes a survivor for cleansing a totem by forcing the killer to lose 2 perks during the course of a match. While the effect for breaking live hexes is pretty good, the punishment for a survivor who breaks a dull totem is 45 seconds of obliviousness, or just simply no killer terror radius. Hex perks are supposed to be high risk, high reward, but this perk does not have that kind of power. Obliviousness on a survivor while the hex is live is not a strong enough effect to warrant this perk being a hex. But as for live hexes, when this perk or another hex is broken, survivor auras are revealed for 10 seconds. Bitter Murmur will reveal survivor auras for 5 seconds for each of 4 generators completed, and 10 seconds when the last generator is completed. Bitter Murmur also gives aura reading during the match and is helped by the gen notifications, which give direction to begin hunting survivors down. This is much more powerful than Obliviousness from a dull totem, and the same 10-second aura reading time when a survivor finishes a gen. Hex Retribution is just another band-aid fix sold as a DLC perk when it really should just be a core totem mechanic. The Obliviousness is a very weak effect when the killer has no idea where the survivor is. Add to this the fact that the cleansing survivor will gain the oblivious notification notifying them that they are oblivious, and then you have a survivor who's going to be especially watchful for the killer since they know they can't hear the terror radius. Heaven forbid survivors are actually taken by surprise by a killer's perk, am I right? For this, our newest DLC, Hex Retribution is Bitter Murmur for totems. Gearhead is a bad copy of 5 other perks, and Deadman Switch is a different flavor of Thrilling Tremors. Does anyone else think that the devs are running out of ideas for perks? If they're not, they're just wildly unimaginative and could use some new people in the mix.
These people don't necessarily know the game, they don't know the culture, how we work, how we do things. We're not going to change our way of doing things, and we're not going to change our focus.
Fixing the perks is relatively easy. Deadman Switch should have a much shorter time limit and kick survivors off of a gen if they're working on it. Gearhead should be as it is, but include great skill checks. Hex Retribution without the aura reading should be a core totem mechanic, but I suppose a compromise would be if it would reveal the aura of the dull cleansing survivor for a short time to help the killer find the offending survivor and get some use out of the hex, instead of just getting use out of it when it's cleansed like Haunted Grounds, which has a much better effect for a do-nothing hex totem. Anyway, that's my quick and dirty perk study for the Death Slinger. Have you found a dirty combo with any of his perks? Do you have any other suggestions or changes for his perks? Comment below because I'm interested in your thoughts and ideas. Side note, I'm going to let you know this. Videos are going to still be coming out. I'm still making videos, but I'm using a slower process to try and make higher quality videos like this one. Let me know what you think of this video and any other little tips or tricks that you think might make it better. We're going to expand our horizons and widen our scope a little bit, so we're going to see what I can come up with. But until next time, give me some space.